Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 275 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to work on tin coils. Enjoy! The robots are hard at work, laying down concrete. In the meantime, I expanded the bot network to include all of the southern area, at least that I could reach. We'll have to wait on getting bots to cover this when we upgrade to the better batteries. But for the most part, they can see everything in the south, at least where we've laid the concrete now, and they're hard at work. It's a lot of concrete. Takes a long time to lay down. But that's why I wanted to get this set up earlier on, because I knew it would take forever. So while we are building up our ingot bus and producing our metals, we'll be making a lot of extra stone that can go into just grinding out some concrete. So you might as well continue on the bus here. I would like to add a priority setup for all of these different ores, but it might be easier to figure out the priority after we have everything laid down, and then we can just walk by and count their different sources and figure out which one's best, which one's second best, and all of that. It doesn't really matter too much, but let's just say you're dumping zinc in these things here. I don't think that's exactly how it is, but even if you have two different setups that are dumping zinc, and they would be set to dump zinc when zinc is high, so like 60,000, ultimately there may not be enough zinc to feed both of them, at least extra zinc. So you have to decide which one is more important than the other. So that's where the priority setup comes in with these warehouses, because otherwise it just equally distributes everything, at least for however the belts are set up, to wherever they go, and that may not be where you want everything to go. But it might be easier to calculate in the end here. But we finished with the alloyed plates. I know things are not quite straight. It's only this one for some reason that isn't lined up. But I guess actually it is lined up, it just doesn't look like it because it's only on one side of the pipe. But we can just take a hint about what the next resources are and go from there. It looks like it was tinned copper wire, and then the tin coils themselves. And before we start placing everything, we'll want to make sure that we have the correct technologies, because we don't have the coolant methods for everything. And it looks like for tinned copper wire, we do. And it multiplies the resources like the other recipes do. And we've got one for tin sheet coil as well. So what kind of throughput are we going to want? Well, we designed each of these for 4 belts of input because that's what was available. And we have 4 belts of input for tin as well. So we should probably set it up for the same size. And it's a little different now that we're doing tinned wire because it requires the molten tin and the molten copper. But there's only one recipe for it as a result, so it's not particularly complicated. But let's just make a line here to make sure we don't mess anything up. Tinned copper wire output, I think, would be approximately 60, but maybe we should do it based on input instead. But we want to hit each of those. Hit that to 0, flip it around. We'll have 120, but I don't think we'll need to make nearly that much. That's technically the maximum we can do. But the only reason it's that high is because we're technically using 8 belts of input. And that's probably too much. I don't think we need anywhere near that many coils. So 4 total belts of input would match the other setups in scope. And if we put our speed modules in here, it should hopefully kind of make sense and match what the other places are doing. So we come over here and take a look at copper wire coils here, where it requires 3.34 and 3.34. So 8 basically, and we have 8 here, and then 5.72 or 6, which we have here as well. So really, the only thing that's going to change is instead of having 1 molten fluid, we're going to have 2. And since there's only 1 input, we don't really need the storage tanks at all, but this part might be slightly more complicated because instead of having one input here, it's going to have two. So it's going to change size a little bit. But we probably can just kind of place it down anyway and work on it from there. Let's just place it here, I suppose. So we need to change this for the copper wire. And this one's probably going to stay in the same spot. It's this side that's going to change, so perhaps we should just pick these up. One thing that's interesting to note, it's kind of looking at this here, is that let's say to make these copper coils, we're essentially making 120 plates a second because 120 go in and then it makes one coil, but each coil has 4 plates in it. So it's 144 input just because it's slightly higher, but it has a 1440 output of molten, and then you have this one, which has the 1260, but ultimately 36 plates, or about 1 belt's worth of plates. And definitely we can put blue belts there later to improve efficiency, just without going nuts with the setup. But basically that's 4 belts in, 1 belt out. Well, if you look at our hell mod calculation here, it's 2 belts and 2 belts, so that's 4 belts in, but we're actually getting 2 belts of tinned wire coil on the way out. Let's see, is the copper coil any different? 1440. Okay, there we go. There's where the error is, that the coils make twice as much, or at least the coils of wire. Let's make sure none of these other ones have errors. They don't seem to. Hey, it's running a little bit. So that's important if we want to maximize output here. At least in the case of this, it's not too big a deal. We just have a setup we need to pick up. And lots of copper coil. They're coming to grab it already. Okay, well these are twice as fast then, which means they'll probably need twice as many inserters, so 12 a second, which is going to be 2 inserters. Which do kind of fit here. Can use this one on the end to try to max out that side. And there isn't much room for power poles. Maybe just use some substations here to get power in there. So we need the other set of buildings. And good thing we left ourselves a tiny little bit of space. Because we have another belt that needs to come in here. And let's see, are all the pipes hooked up now? Almost, if they were just lined up. Interesting, there's pipes here that go nowhere. But there we go. That should maximize speed there. And it's probably not worth copying that since we're kind of doing something different here already. But at least we know the inserters. So long-handed pickup and regular drop for right here. And right there. And then near side. And it doesn't really matter for this side. And we can plop these in here. So regular, near, regular, and then that will be the functionally the near on that side. And then the 2 sets of pipes. And there we go. It's always nice to have robots do things. So that's in there. And I'll just manually place this stuff. See, this is the fresh coolant. And that right there is the dirty coolant. Well, we can put it in its final position after figuring out these induction furnaces, where it's 4 and 4, but we're going to have 2 different types of fluids in here. So whatever, we'll just place it somewhere. And we kind of need to flip it, but Factorio doesn't like that. So we'll flip the individual components. Let's see, we will pick this up, Get it lined up. And let's just do that. Because that should let us nab this side. Now the question is it actually lined up? Well, I guess it doesn't matter because it hasn't been connected yet, so this would be the tin side. And then we can space this out by 1. That would be the copper side. It is kind of close to this, though. I don't really like that. So, make the robots do a little bit more work yet again. By picking this up and moving it. And just give it the 2 spaces, I suppose. I'm expecting this rebuild to be fairly late game. That really, if it gets rebuilt again, it would be like end game, super mega base type of stuff. Omega base kind of things. I very much expect this type of output, all these belts of ores, to be enough to satisfy Science Cost Tweaker and Space Extension. Okay, well we also need this. And it is going to be offset, because I wasn't thinking about that, although I guess it technically doesn't have to be. They can kind of overlap a little bit like this. It is a little not fun placing these stations, but it's good because it's going to compact everything, because we're going to have a couple more stations after this, and I really don't want to just go all the way to the edge, so it's nice to go and smash this stuff down a little bit. This is the best opportunity to do it, so we might as well. Tinned wire coil load, and so we're not waiting on robots to get these combinators down here. Can just kind of place them manually so I don't forget that I gotta switch all these things. Let's just copy this. It's got a robot network thing in there, but oh well. How are we doing with these? Probably should get a whole nother slice of them, because when this is running, this is probably going to run out, but I don't know. Maybe we should just watch it and see. And then the very fun task of moving all these coils. Yeah, but the robots are excited as I am to move all this stuff. And as always, got to expand the bot network. And we're pretty far out from where the last parking space is, so let's just make more. We do need to eventually put pumps and things on the bus, but we just don't really make that many of them. So I'm kind of okay with just manually placing them for now. And we will need the priority logic eventually for this, but since there's no other logic required, we can wait until everything's set up for that. Okay, gotta jump the belt a little bit here. Luckily we can. We can use those spots. Definitely, the bigger and bigger things get, the harder and harder the logistics are to figure out how to get all of the belts going where they need to go. And this is even, in a way, kind of light cheat mode. Okay. Oop, gotta make sure, super duper make sure, that none of these are unlimited. They seem pretty good. Okay, how is everything? Are we all placed? Kind of, but we need to hook up the fresh coolant to prime the system here. Let's unhook those for now, so we can just send in the ingots and see what happens. Since we've already kind of tested it before, there shouldn't be any surprises. It should basically consume 2 belts each. And they seem like they have no issue doing that. And they're just filling this up all the way. No logic required because it's the only way to make it. Oh, I do see a dark area here, so that radar did cover something. It just needed a few minutes to clear out. Wow, this radar is so much bigger than that old one. Look at that. It like covers the whole mini-map, so I guess just like right there. Yep. So, are the robots hard at work? Oh yeah, they're like nowhere close to getting all this placed. But they're working on it, for sure. Are they like blowing up these pumps by installing the new concrete? I haven't really noticed any blow up. It could be that because there were definitely some pump problems in the past, that those pumps were placed when those problems existed, and now that the bugs have been fixed, any new pumps placed are okay. But, well, whatever. We'll find out. If any pumps explode, then anything that uses water will stop working, so it'll be pretty clear that something's wrong. But concrete's going. It's just when you have probably literally millions of pieces of concrete that have to be made, or refined concrete in this case, it takes a while. So we're looking at about 45,000 concrete that's being made so far. They make 10 per cycle, so that would be 450,000 concrete that's been made so far, and it's only partially covered what we need. So it's going to be a while for these robots, so I'm really glad we got that set up now. But that got topped off, so when we hook it up, it should be good to go. And it's kind of hard to remember to put lights in here, just because it's not particularly obvious where they are these days, since night vision is pretty good. But I'll wait. Once I have the third tier of night vision, then I just won't care anymore, because there won't be any difference at all between night and day as far as our character is concerned. But we put all that stuff in there, and well, it tops off, so can't really see much. But that's filled up because it was before, so nothing too exciting there. So the next thing we need to do is do the coils for tin. And I believe those are the ones over here, yep. Hopefully that doesn't get in the way. It probably will. And I think the limiting factor on how big these setups can be is this, so we'll just kind of bump it in here and then straighten everything out. But this is the setup that uses one resource. So we'll hit that and let the base robots get started, because they've got a lot of stuff to move. And as far as input, well, technically we can do 4 belts per second. I don't know if we need to, though, because that would be the entire output. It's a little different when you're making 4 belts of iron when you also have 4 belts going elsewhere, but I don't know. We can, theoretically, and we will have logic to control it. One advantage to not having things be full speed is that if we do use all 4 belts, that it means anytime a train comes in for those coils, that every belt of tin is going to be used up, and every other method will shut off until it's filled, if that one has any sort of priority. Let's see, what kind of tin output would we actually need? Let's just grab this entire thing. Well, that calculated pretty fast. Thought it was going to take a little bit longer than that. Well, all of that, for science, requires 1 coil per second and like 6 wires. Our entire main bus, if every single thing was running, would require 10 and 4.8. It's amazing how much faster this is. It used to be where you select everything. It took a while for it to calculate. Now, like, look at this. How many machines is that? Like, it's lagging just me selecting it. 8.5K of yellow inserters. And yet, I let go and it was like a half a second after letting go for this to show up. So that is amazingly fast. So it uses more, definitely, with the circuit bus, but it's mainly these tinned wire coils. Actual regular coils, it doesn't seem like it needs that many. But since we already have a setup that can take in 4 belts of resources, we might as well just build it to use it, even if we don't think we'll need it. Because otherwise, all this other stuff will be oversized. So, it'll be easy just to grab some stuff. And I guess it would be most similar to copper right here. So we'll grab it, line it up with the tank. And then we got to get our 4 belts out of here. Luckily it's a little quieter here, so hopefully it will be easier to get these warehouses lined up. Man, I'm just like, it's fun to build these, but at the same time I'm like, the scale of the amount of resources that this can move and actually sort in real time is insane, actually. It's not one bus with all these separate individual resources, but rather 4 belts of many resources. Now we're just waiting on the robots to complete everything, and looks like they're getting pretty close. And let's make the robots cry again. With all of this stuff we gotta pull out. We only need 1 belt here because it's not the wire coils, it's just the regular sheet coils. And molten tin. Oops. I hooked up copper when we actually wanted tin. Well, that's what the robots are here for, to clean up our inventory. Okay. The correct resource this time. Well, the robots are going to take a while cleaning up our inventory, but we've got the correct resources here now. Always double check that everything's set right. Tinned wire coil. So this one is just tin coil load. And set to tin. Okay. I think that's everything. Nothing new with this setup, so it should just work. Seems to. So we'll hook it in. And it's just going to fill up to the beginning of the warehouse here because it's still clearing out all these coils. And there we go. That's hooked up, that's running. How are we doing on those filter frames? Oh wow, they kind of disappeared. So I guess we should get a whole nother stack of them. Well, before we do that, we can get the next setup going. But that's going to have to wait till the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.